Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, I'm back. Got so much to cover today. I want to do like the big catch up. We're going to talk about Classic, we're going to talk about the UI, we're going to talk about Vegas, we're going to talk about BfA. We're going to do all those things. So I'm going to go relatively quick because I want to get everything into one video. So we're just going forward normally. But I'm going to try and hit everything from Classic UI, add-ons, where we're going to be BfA, all the fun ins and outs of Vegas, all that kind of stuff in this one video. So let's get going. So the last 10 days, I've not been here. I've been in Las Vegas. I'm sure many of you saw that casting for Method at the Classic Race to World First, where it was so cool. I had so much fun. Is that how widespread the Method family's got, that I got to meet so many people from outside of Method Guild, as we know it, right? So it was the coolest thing about Classic is that so many people started with Classic and then went on to other games, you know? So we had all these guys come in that I got to meet that ordinarily, unless they're part of the Method Guild at the races that I do, the World First competitions, I got to meet all these people like Kenny Marsh, Maldiva, Carla, Lauren, Jacob Bake, Guzu, Zizaran, Nugian. I'm missing somebody. I know I am. I know I'm missing somebody I've never met before. And the production team as well, which was other people from the community who were helping out, like Chrissy, Zavalash, all those dudes. And again, if I forget anybody's name, it's just because there's so many people that were working there. Kungan, Izzy, all those people who were at the event. It was like, I never get to mix with these people. And all turned out to be super fucking nice people. Like, it was amazing. It really is. And it's one of the most often questions is like, people want their favorite content creator then. They're like, why don't you invite X and Y and Z? And a lot of times it works out that like, if you don't see them at these events or you only ever see them once, they're kind of douchebags. So they don't get invited back. That's not 100% everybody, right? And I'm not mentioning names by any means, but often the case where you think, I would expect blah, blah, blah to be there, and they're never at these events. It's often the case that they're just not that nice outside of the content they put out, that, you know, that's the way it works. Or they've met in the past and it's something like, oh, okay, you know, don't really want to work with that guy. Don't really work with that guy. But it wasn't at all. It was nobody I didn't get to work with. Nano, there were some people like Mr. GM I'd never like had to chat with. I had a great show with him. Nano, I wasn't even scheduled to work with Nano from the Nostalrius people. Turned out to be fucking awesome. Like, had a really great show with him. It was just, everybody encompassed into this event was so cool. I don't think anybody wouldn't be invited back or want to do it again. There were some people there who definitely would have invited back, but didn't come for other reasons from the last event. So I'm just saying, because I made that douchebag comment, like Tracky and Tettles, who would absolutely be invited back, I'm sure, because they're great people to be around and did really useful stuff, but weren't involved in the Classic side of things, or like Tettles was working on something else. I think he was doing MDI at the time. So it kind of worked out that way, you know. And then the usual crew, you know, your JBs, your Deep Shades, your Potters, all these guys. And Roger Brown I got to meet for the first time, who mad debated me. Because Roger Brown is somebody I've wanted to meet for literally years. I remember in Wrath of the Lich King when I was in the guild and Roger Brown joined the guild, and I thought, that is the dumbest fucking name I've ever seen in my life. And this hunter joined the guild called Roger Brown. I was like, what a shitty character name. And then ultimately in Kata, he did my interview when I was coming back in Kata. Like, we ended up chit-chatting on Skype for about an hour and a half, I think, about nothing to do with like World of Warcraft at all. We just shot the shit for like an hour and a half. He's like, yeah, you're in the guild. You're in the guild, you're fine. And in fact, I think the biggest discussion we had during that was trying to get the legendary staff for me, because I didn't have it, and I was just re-rolling Warlock again for Method. And they're like, we'll have to get you the legendary staff. And I was like, dude, the tier's over. Dragon Soul's already out. Like, it won't matter. We're going into Mr. Pandaria. He's like, no, we're going to get you the staff. I was like, I don't want the fucking staff. I don't even want to be asked doing the quest. It's like, we'll get you the staff. A lot of the conversation was like that. But we'd spoken a ton of times and never met. Never met IRL, because he was in the army and doing all this kind of stuff when I started going to these events. So he fucking sees me walking through the lobby in the hotel, but doesn't say anything, right? So I don't see him. He's like behind me or whatever. So I get in the lift, and in the US, the way it works in the lifts is kind of like the system where whoever's first in becomes like button commander. So they like crowd the button, and they're like in charge of the button. You got to tell the guy which floor you want, and he'll like punch the button in. So I wasn't the first in the elevator, so I'm chilling at the back. And then this guy gets in who I don't like notice because I'm like looking at my phone or whatever, and stands with his back to me, like gives me this, like this. And I ask him, like, oh, what button do you want? Because he hasn't said anything to let the button commander know. And he goes, well, preach. And this fucking pure Roger Brown voice. And I was like, no! Turns around, he's got this big fucking grin on his face. He's like, oh, shit. Like, totally debated. He's like, yeah, I saw you walking through. Fucking say hello. Had a big cuddle. Ended up being on my floor, so we talked all the way there. And I think we ended up chatting more than, like, anybody that I got to speak with at Method in total for the entire event, just backwards and forwards, just shooting the shit. And even ended up on the same flight home because he had to stop by Manchester in order to get to Greece. So super cool to meet those guys. As you can tell, I was just glowing for the whole event. It was very cool. Production-wise, really serious. Put me in an uncomfortable position, which was nice. A lot of people don't like it, being uncomfortable, but I was like embracing the challenge. So we had like a proper director, a guy called Mike, who was super serious, knew what he wanted as well. Like, usually they just stick me on a fucking thing and say, there's a microphone, go. And that's about as complicated as my job is, which is hard to do. Like, it's like, go is like talk for 4 hours and keep it entertaining, keep it interesting, right? That's not easy to do. But I'm okay with that. I've got used to it now. I'm comfortable with it. I usually come in with a lot of ideas. I take it very seriously. I like... At this event, for example, before every shift, I would try and do 2 rounds of the room. So I would get there about an hour early. I'd gauge the room. I'd go around and talk to literally everybody we've been focused on for the last little while. See where they're up to. Go and talk to Guzu. Go and talk to Kenny. Go and talk to Nugi. Go and talk to Ziz. Go and find out where they're all up to. Catch up with the Method boys. Catch up with where everybody is. And then about 10 minutes before I go on, go and do it again. What's changed? What's coming up in the next 3 hours, right? Which is my shift. What are we going to be doing then? Anything I should make people aware of on stream? Do all that kind of stuff. So not only was I meeting these people for the first time, I then got to like get to know them really well. So I do try and take it as seriously as I can. But also with the director, like they had me opening the show, which is an incredible honor. It really is. Like if you're opening the show, that's so fucking cool, man. I can't tell you what it's like with a team of casters like, we want you to open the show. And I'm like, thank you. You know what I mean? What a pleasure. But usually it's like open the show, go, right? Get it started, get going. This time around, though, we sat down, had documents to go through, prepared the entire intro, and Mike, the director, knew when to be flexible and when to be inflexible, which was really nice. So it's like, gave us these 3-page, me and Bay were opening the show, these 3 pages of notes for the first 30 minutes. So 3 A4 sheets of paper for the first 30 minutes. And I started to get really uncomfortable. I was like, my job is to kind of talk for a long time and keep it interesting and flow to a point and a conclusion. This is like point. And, you know, we've got a 30-minute window. And it had times near each point. So it was like a point, 3 minutes, a point, 2 minutes. And I was like, shit. So me and Bay work really well together. So Bay was like, we got this, okay? You be the captain. Like, you lead the boat, but I'm going to be the navigator. And I'll keep us on point and through it all. So we were, like, working it together. And then we were like, this is what you've given us here for me and Bay is like 6 hours of talking. And you want it in 30 minutes. So it's like, is there any flexibility? He's like, no, not for this bit. Flexibility comes later. I want this tight. I want the opening of the show to be super tight. That's how I want it to be. I'm in charge. That's how it's going to be. So I was like, okay, you know, this is going to be tough for me. And it was actually Dan Falcone who came over to me. He's like, because he's used to that. That's how he prefers to work. You know, that's the experience he has, and he's a professional caster. So even during this event, he had to leave to go to Los Angeles to cast a different event and then come back. Like that's what he's 100% job is casting. So he was like, I don't know, like you're really good at this. I'm good at this. I don't know whether we should have switched it around or something. And I was like, I agree. If you would have given me the caster list and said this is how the show's going to work, for safety and all that, I probably would have put Falcone into that position. But at the same time, as I said to Dan, is like, I want to take the challenge on. Like, I am uncomfortable. I don't know how well I work with this really sort of structured environment. But I want to try it. I want to figure out if I could do it. I want to figure out if I'm good at it. I want to do all these things. So I think I did well. And the only interaction I had with production, despite talking to them all the time, because one of our biggest complaints as casters that we've had for the last 2 events, including Red Bull, which are super professional as well, was that we didn't have a talk back button to production. We had to speak to them through our comms that you guys can hear. But this time we had a big box on the floor with a big foot pedal. And if you put the pedal down, then you could talk to production and the stream couldn't hear you. And we had more interaction with production in our ears than ever before. And it was really, really nice. Like, what's coming up next? Who's doing what? We're going to cut to him in about 3 minutes, so prepare for that. 3 minutes until this is happening and all this kind of shit. It was really nice. And also, while the stream's going on, we've got our foot pedal down and talking backwards into them, saying things like, all right, so from what I know, Kenny Marsh is going to be doing the Onyxia attunement coming up. We really want to focus on that. We also want to cut to Guzu because he's doing this. And we want to keep an eye on tips as well because they're about to get Wind Fury. And then the feedback to me is like, okay, got that in order. That's what we're going to do. We're keeping eyes on those 3 screens to make sure we capture anything. So nice. Other than that, going into the production room itself, I only ever went in there twice. One to show my kids how cool it was because it was like a TV studio. And the other time was like when they started to get used to me being there and asking me to do extra things, which was, again, a fucking honor. They were like, Mike, can we get you in production for 5 minutes? We want to do this, this, and this with you. Can you do that? I'm like, I'm up for anything. Always. And this is what I said production. I was like, if you guys have an idea to make the show better, I will do it. No problem. I don't care what it is. I'll do it. I'm yours to command. That's why I'm here. So if you have ideas you want to throw at me, I might throw in something that's like, maybe we should do it this way, or, you know, maybe you can improve it this way. But if you guys have an idea or the formations of an idea and you want to do it, I'm your man. I'll do it for you. That's fine. Which production teams love that because the last thing they want is somebody who's like, no, I don't really want to do that. I don't like that. No, get somebody else. So I was like, no, I'm your guy. And we got to do that a couple of times, which was really nice. But didn't really get feedback from production in terms of whether they were happy or not. So I was definitely aware of like, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not doing very well, or maybe they're not happy with something. And then on the last day, the production team, when we were wrapping up, all came out individually to talk to me. And they were like, loved working with you. So cool. Really, really fantastic. Would happily do this anytime with you again. I was like, that's really, really nice. One guy was like, you're my favorite guy. Like when you were on the couch, we were so happy. I was like, that's really kind. You might have said that to literally everybody here, which I was definitely aware of. I was like, maybe you said that to literally everybody, but I will take the compliment. I'm happy that we got some feedback from that. So that was very, very cool. So put me out of my comfort zone. I think we did well. I will apologize for the chat. I did my best to curb it, but it turns out, as somebody who never really dealt with the classic community or the private community in any way, and I don't think that's a fair term anyway, because that's such a broad brush. It turns out that there is this really, really awful fucking group that exists that neither the private community, at least the ones I was dealing with at the event, and their friends don't want to associate with them either. Just this really sort of cesspool, mud-filled group of people that are just fucking awful. Nobody likes them, but they exist. It was kind of funny for us. What we were doing in our downtime, like in the studio, we were like, "What's wrong with these guys?" I'm like, "We don't know." And we were asking other people, and they're like, "I don't know." And S-Fan was like, "I just straight ban them. Like they exist. I don't know what the fuck they are. Just get rid of them. Like it's fun for a little while, but like they just are so persistent." We were like clicking the users, see the chat log. Some of these guys are at it for like 4 days of the same comment, and then but typed as well. You know, slightly different wording and stuff. So they weren't macroing it or anything. And like 4 days straight, like for hours, like we would go to sleep. And like maybe have 9 hours between a shift, come back, the same fucking like 12 people were still there, still keeping it going. You might be like, why don't you just ban them? It's like, we don't really want to ban anybody from the stream. It's supposed to be a fun party event. So it's like, we don't want to ban people or anything. We're just trying to like sort it out. And I think I did a good job. I did get asked to like, see if we can clean it up. Can we curb this in some way? Can we address any of their concerns? Let's try and treat them as legitimate people and not just like really bitter, awful people, and try and address their things, which I did, and it did help a little bit, for sure. But there was definitely a subset of people that were just fucking gross. So I apologize for that because I do try and interact with the audience as much as possible. I just flat out couldn't. It was impossible to keep it up. And I know it was the big feedback from you guys is like, yeah, the chat was the worst. Apparently, these people exist. I don't know, man. Nobody wants to associate with them. It was just the way it was. On the personal side, then, I did get remarried. There's a link down below to the wedding if you want to watch it. I was already married. It was a renewal of the vows. And the only reason we did it is it's kind of one of those things you see on the movies with the, like, Elvis wedding, this Las Vegas wedding thing, the drive-through wedding. The place we were at did have a drive-through wedding. It cost us like $70 to get remarried. You have to tip the vicar as well, which is fucking hilarious. It gives you this card saying, I don't get paid, but this is the tip that's usually there. So it was pretty funny. It was a whole fun thing. We had so many people come down. Like the Method guys came down. Martin Creek came down. We had Kenny Marsh was there. And we just had this fun wedding and the thing. You can watch the whole thing. Bay was amazing. Bay was like... We could stream it. I was like, if we could stream it, we can stream it. He's like, I got this. He had like all the equipment. He had like a little microphone. He had a tripod, the whole fucking thing. It was all on his phone, so it's not professional by any means. But it was all on his phone. But he had it set up in like 5 minutes. Babe was like, I got this, bro. And got it sorted so he could get it done. It was fucking amazing. So cool. Such a fun experience. In terms of having my family there, very different. Sometimes it was a real inconvenience. Sometimes it was amazing. The best part, of course, was I got to see my boys and my wife after doing shifts, where typically I'm like, okay, back to the hotel room, get on with some work, maybe watch a movie and fall asleep, and then just repeat for the entire time. This time around, though, I got to come back and see my boys, and they were super missy. It was really cool. Like, sometimes they were upset because for them, it was a vacation, and they couldn't figure out why daddy wasn't taking part in the vacation. And so we had some tears sometimes, like, why aren't you coming out with us? But alternatively, I got to spend time with them, which is amazing. They got to do things that I've always wanted to do, like bucket list things. So if you don't know what a bucket list is, it's things to do before you die. And they've done things now. We're at the point where they've done things that are on my bucket list that I haven't done. So one of them was seeing the Grand Canyon and Hoover Dam. Always wanted to see those places. I didn't have time to do it while we were in Vegas, but they did. I was very adamant that Emma take them there. So Emma was a champ. I didn't gamble at all in Vegas. I didn't like it. I have no issue with gambling, but I bumped into a lot of people who definitely been sucked into Vegas and lives were ruined because of Vegas. Like, it's obviously a place, if you can control yourself, it's super fun. But for me, it was like, it's so predatory. They work so hard to make sure you don't leave the building. They put in so much effort to make sure you don't leave the building. Are you winning? Here's a free drink. So you're not going to leave before you finish your drink, right? So you're going to gamble more. Are you losing? No drinks, nothing. Just get the fuck out. We've got your money. That's the impression I got of it. Whereas when we go gambling in the UK, we do it like once a year. It costs us about £20 because it's £1 bets. You can get a whole night out of 20 quid. By going out in Manchester. So we usually do that around Emma's birthday. Just have a night out and go do that for a bit of fun. But in Vegas, not so much. Vegas is a fun place. It's a fun place. I wouldn't go there on vacation, but it was a fun place to be. Lots of things to do, but it is like it's very predatory, as is the word that I came up with. It's like very predatory. They want every penny you have. One of the bucket list things I did get to do, and apparently this is very normal. My American audience on the live stream informed me of this, is that all rental places in the US pretty much have very, very expensive cars, super cheap. I thought it was because everybody in Vegas wants to be a flash hero. So we looked to rent a car, and it was either a Nissan Micra, which is about that big, or a convertible bright red Ford Mustang, which was like $85, I think it was, and then some insurance on top. So it was about $100+ ish. It was barely anything to have a Ford Mustang convertible. So Emma wanted to go to a place called the Valley of Fire, just inside Arizona, about an hour away from Vegas itself. So we did that. And that was one of my bucket list things. From the movies, because I'm a big cinephile, as you guys know, I love movies. I always wanted to drive down a completely empty highway in the US with the top down and just cruising the fucking highway all on your own, because the US is so big, you can do that. And I got to do that, like driving to the Valley of Fire. The entire highway was empty, just dust roads. Emma had country music blasting, and it was just like a perfect day. It was such a wonderfully perfect day that both of us were probably at the height of our happiness than I remember for a while. Like, we were a very happy couple, but this was like the next level. It was so fucking good. So got to do that. Even though the kids were there, they were asleep in the back, so we covered them up from the sun, because it is like 110 degrees regularly in Las Vegas. Las Vegas summer is not nice, certainly coming from the UK. It was very heavy, but I did get to do that, which was cool. So that was Vegas in a nutshell. The wedding and everything was just the perfect top off, the icing on the cake, just some fun that we did. Coming back then, finally got to play Classic. Here we are. So a load of questions you guys probably have about Classic I am an Undead Warrior. So first FAQ, why Undead Warrior? I love the animations. I played the Tauren Warrior on the beta. Why am I Horde? This is where all the buds are. This is the community I want to play with. These are the guys. I did kind of want to, I was tempted to go Alliance. I wanted to play Alliance, but the community is way more important. So the fact is, this Classic is not hard. And I now get to play with a lot of the guys who don't have the same drives and goals that I have. Like Mythic raiding and retail requires, not only a very high skill cap, but also a huge amount of time investment that a lot of the guys that I love dearly as friends just aren't interested in anymore. Like, that was their thing a while ago, but not anymore. So Classic doesn't require anywhere near that amount of commitment character-wise. Which is, it seems strange to a lot of people. It's like, it's just a time sink classic. It's like, compared to BfA, if you want to play at the mythic level, no. no, it really isn't. So I get to play with so many dudes. So we are on Shazra, we are Horde on Shazra. I chose Undead purely because of the animations. Now you can kind of see how far behind them are. There's a lot of like 50 pluses online, and I am level 25, but I've only had a couple of days to play, so I'm pretty happy with where I am at the moment. I'm pretty happy with where I am. Now, you'll notice add-ons and stuff. So let's talk about the other one. So again, I'm Undead purely for the animations. I like all of the animations if they're DPSing, if it's Arms, Fury, or Prot. I like them all. Tauren, I only like when they're tanking. Don't like their DPS animations. Don't like Orcs at all. And you don't need to min-max hardcore in Classic. Like, that's totally unnecessary. So I'm with Undead purely for the fact that I enjoy looking at the character. I love looking at my character regardless of what he's doing. So it's as simple as that. No more difficult than that. In terms of add-ons then, so a lot of people have been asking for this. So first of all, I'm using LVY. As you can see, there is a Classic version of LVY. Some people believe Classic was played on sticks and stones. Nope, we had unit frame add-ons. We had bar add-ons in Classic. We had all this stuff. So this is the LVY version. Some people want it. If you do, very easy. There's a link down below to download Classic LVY, or just Google it. But you'll also see a link to a paste bin. So if you open LVY in Classic, if you have LVY yourself, let's do two things then. If you have LVY yourself in Battle for Azeroth and you want it to look the same, if you come down to Profiles, click Export Profile. So if you were logged into Retail right now, it's the same thing. Click Export Now. You'll get this huge bunch of text. Right? Get this huge bunch of text. Just copy that. Open Classic LVY, go to Import Profile and just paste it in there. Import now. And done. That's it. You have your BfA LVY in Classic. They've done a really good job of making sure it translates nicely into this one. And similarly, there's going to be a paste bin down below, so I will copy and paste this into a paste bin. All you do, if you want my UI, is literally open that paste bin, copy it, go to import, paste it, and voila, you have my UI. It's as simple as that. So I have very few UIs, very few add-ons installed. I have Details. I need to install Classic Threat Meter. Details does have a plugin, so it works with your Details window, so you can work it in there. So I need to download that. But if I just come out to here, you can see the add-ons I have installed. I have Bigwigs, Details. I do have Weak Auras, which is like Power Auras, we used to call it, you know, shit like that. I have Zygo, which I'll get to in a second, and Questy, and of course LVI. So I have like 5 add-ons. That's it. That's all I have. That's all I need, I think. I might get Weapon Swing Timer, but yeah, again, min-maxing, not that interested in Classic about doing that. In terms of leveling add-ons, why are you going so fast? You probably just saw a whisper there. You probably just saw that whisper. I don't think I'm going that fast, actually. I'm certainly not dungeon grinding or anything like that. That was horrific for some of those guys to dungeon grind. Doesn't mean I'm going intentionally slow either. Now, during the Classic Beta, I didn't use like any add-ons until like the very tail end, once we were already capped. I certainly didn't use any questing add-ons. And I took the time, I read the quests, I relived the world, I had fun with that. Now I'm back, I kind of want to get on with it. I've already done that in the beta. I'm happy to get on with questing normally here and getting good pace. The biggest issue I have with Classic leveling isn't the travel time. The travel time is a pain in the ass. But it's more the case that the quest routing that Blizzard put in is just all over the place. So I will take any advantage I can get in terms of like making it so you don't end up traveling more than necessary by having some guide as to what is like the most efficient order of doing the quest. You're going to do the same quest, but the efficient order. Now, I was using Azeroth Autopilot, which is completely free. Unfortunately, I ran into huge issues with that in the Barrens. It was fine until I needed to do Wailing Caverns, which has 5 quests, and I had a full quest log. So I needed to turn some quests in order to free up the space to have the Wailing Caverns quests, and AAP just never recovered from that. It just couldn't figure out where the fuck I was. I tried everything. We talked to people. We got advice. We tried skips. We tried resetting it. We tried using like the control to skip various things. We tried to do everything to get AAP back on track. It just couldn't get its arse in gear to get it working. And ultimately, it was like trying to figure stuff out. Then it was trying to tell me to do quests that I hadn't picked up yet and had never appeared in the list. So I thought, because Maldiva was using this, is that I'd try the Zygo one. You do have to pay for this one, though, by the way. It's like $7 to see how that works. It was kind of similar at the start, because these add-ons do tend to assume that you're using them from the start, which obviously I wasn't. But it very quickly figured out where I was and then started working with it. Now, it did have, like, you can see this kill these bailed on enemies. Like, these quests here, I had to pick these up. So it would assume, because this one's, like, broken into brackets. it's got brackets. So if you go into here, you can see it's done like brackets of leveling. So if you want to go from 20 to 25, you click on that one, and it will then bring up like the efficient way of doing that. So I was halfway through. I was like 22 when I clicked this. So it definitely assumed I had some quests, which I didn't. But with Questy, which adds the things to your map, that's the cool thing about Classic, is if you want to just like figure it out yourself and go wandering, you can do that. But with Questy, because everybody in BfA has this whether you want it or not, which can definitely feel like you're on rails all the time. This is the good thing about Classic, is it's your choice which things you add in. So with Questy, I was able to figure out where these quests were. So like Chen's Empty Kegs there, right? So if when I logged in, if let's say this quest here was like, okay, you need to do Chen's Empty Keg, and I didn't have the quest, with Questy I could go, oh, it's over there. So if I go and grab that and that, I had to do like pick up 2 quests, I was back on track. So this has been working out really well for me. And again, it's purely about efficiency. I'm still sort of solo grinding. I'm doing like a dungeon. When I have the quest for it, I go and do the dungeon, do all the quests. And that's about it. And then other than that, I'm doing solo play, grouping up with people out in the open world, and just having a wonderful time doing that. So I hope that explains why I'm doing that. I can recommend this so far. I think it's worth the $7 just to make your leveling efficient. Certainly if you're somebody who's been like, oh, I've just been to say here and done the bristleboar fucking feathers or whatever the shit they are, the tusks or whatever it is. I've been here, and then I came here, and then it gave me another quest to go right back here and do something else, and then it gave me a quest to go here. If you're running into that scenario where you're like, fuck, man, I've just done this area, now I've got another quest to go back to that area, I wish I'd done them all at the same time, that's kind of why I'm using this, because that happens a lot in Classic, where you're like, oh, here's a quest I just got from, say, Crossroads to go here. But if I'd known just to come down like 10 yards more, I would have got another quest and another quest, 2 more quests to do in this area, and it'd been much better rather than having to do that, go back to Crossroads, then go here, then go back to there, and all that kind of nonsense. That's what I'm getting away from. So that's what's happening in Classic right now. In terms of BfA, so I've got 2 content creations coming up for YouTube. So many people complained during the beta that some people like Classic, some people don't, some people like BfA, some people don't. We're going to make it very clearly labeled which videos are which, but I am going to be focused on both right now. Raiding is done for my guild in BfA. They killed Ashara while I wasn't there, which was expected. My raid leader, Alex, I was in for like most of the Ashara progression, but we sat down and we figured out like mathematically when we were likely to kill it. I should say Alex did. He was like, we're probably going to kill it on this date based on our progress. You're not going to be here. So it was bench time for me. Actually not salty about that, not like I was with Jaina, purely because I don't enjoy the Ashara fight. I did most of the progress on it anyway. It's not fun. Like the Ashara, Mythic Ashara isn't fun. It's one of the worst encounters I think they've done for an endgame boss in a long time. Just not fun. So I wasn't overly arsed. I got to do the progress. I killed everything else. I was there for all the first kills of everything else. I'm fine. I'm fine with that situation. And the guild got it done, obviously, so it wasn't a big deal. So that's fine. I am cool with that. So rating's done there. So BfA will be still having content done, but BfA is way more serious. Classic is going to be a lot of fun for me, a lot of TDPs, a lot of stuff like that. I have stuff to give away, which we'll be doing on TDP. Hopefully the first one is tomorrow. I have 3 of these to give away that Blizzard sent me. These classic packs. They're a bit scuffed. That's not because of me. These were just on my desk. You see there's like tatty edges, so I'm sorry about that, but that's nothing to do with me. But they have like mouse mats in here from Azeroth. They have like Eyes of Cthulhu, which you get in these orbs. You see that Eye of Cthulhu? They have all these kind of things. So they come with like 4 orbs, key rings, maps, stickers, all kinds of stuff for Classic. So I'm going to give those away on TDP. But BfA is really serious. So we're doing workshops and things on there, which have had really cool and interesting responses. The last one we did was like about a whole guild. So I've had various people from that guild get in contact with me. Some of them really happy. Some of them didn't like it because they took it personal, which it never is. It's not personal. I mean, the workshop is not only to help that person, but to help everybody else in that similar situation. So that's the whole purpose of it. But that's something we're aware of because it's obviously a very serious thing. Whereas Classic's going to be the opposite. It's going to be more fun. Coming up to Christmas, we should be capped in Classic. The rating should be underway there, so I don't need to dedicate too much time to Classic, which will then be the Fresh Account series I'm planning to do around Christmas time. The only other traveling I need to do this year is to BlizzCon. Now, on the note of BlizzCon, been very strange for me this year. Typically what happens is, obviously, as you're probably aware, I'm on the influencer list for Blizzard. I don't like that word, neither do you, but that's what it's called. They changed it this year. They restructured the whole thing. From what I could tell, is the influencer list had just been people they kept adding to it. So by now it was huge and also encompassed people who either don't have any involvement with Blizzard games whatsoever, yet we're still getting like free passes to BlizzCon for a party, or actually outright hate Blizzard on a regular occasion and they don't want them there anymore. So they needed to update it. So when I asked, I don't expect to get tickets to BlizzCon. I want to be clear on this. But what usually happens is I ask, because why not? And they either say yes or no. And if they say yes, cool, you get a media badge and you get to go to BlizzCon. That's awesome. You still have to pay for your flights and whatever. But this time around, they were like, we're doing it differently. Or they say no, and you just buy your own tickets. So this time around, they were like, we don't know really what's happening. Sorry, like, we didn't really know what was happening. It's like, okay. So I just bought my tickets. I queued up with everyone else, got my tickets, and I was happy. It was only up until like 2 weeks ago, Blizzard then actually reached out to me and were like, we want you to come to BlizzCon. I was like, oh, okay. Well, Emma's been dealing with it, so I'm now the voice of Emma. She was like, oh, okay. We've already got tickets. The flight's already paid for. What are we doing? And they were like, yeah, we really want Mike to be there. And I was like, is it to work? Is it to do something? Don't really know yet. For now, it's just like, you know, come to BlizzCon, make a piece of content on it afterwards. Like, did you enjoy BlizzCon? Something very simple. What did you do there, kind of thing, but maybe more. So I don't know. I have changed my tickets to media passes. So I think Emma's going to have to like try and resell the tickets or something. I don't really know what's happening there. Dealing with Emma. But on the other note is Blizzard do want me at BlizzCon. So maybe I'll be doing something really fun there. I hope so. I hope so. I want to get some interviews done. I would like to speak to Ian and things like that. So I'm trying my best to make that happen. But confirmed, I will be at BlizzCon, which you guys already know. So that's the only other piece of traveling I need to do this year, besides probably a break at Christmas time itself to be with my family, because, you know, I've got two small children. Christmas is an important time, so I'll be trying to get that done. Other than that, though, not traveling again until probably like February, which will be likely the next raid. Hopefully Method invite me back, and fingers crossed they do invite me back to if they're going to cover that event. No details on anything like that yet, so I'm not being mysterious. I have no details about anything. If anything, I'll be doing at BlizzCon. And I certainly don't know when the next raid is out. But other than that, I'm here. So we won't have these weird breaks in content that we've been having, which means we can get a lot done. Legacy video is coming up very soon. Patreon updates Emma's doing. And also in January, we're likely to be starting to visit certain people who are big members of the community. Many of you know, in order to get do an interesting series, which will be a Patreon series, visiting their lives and stuff like that. So the Patreon content that you don't see is generally stuff that is non-WoW related. So I wouldn't worry about, you're not missing out any gaming content or anything like that. It's all more personal stuff, community stuff that I try and do. So we're going to push that heavily as soon as next year starts. That's going to be the game plan going forward. So look out for that stuff. On top of that, we're doing a lot of streaming right now because my focus is Classic. So generally, rating's done. Focus on Classic on a day-to-day basis. A lot of other games to play as well. We'll try and mix them in as maybe so we don't burn out on Classic, things like that. Then it's going to be the Fresh Account series in the background, mixed with other games on the live stream, leading up to the end of the year. Likely what's going to be the case. So I think that's about everything. I hope we covered it all. Thank you very much for listening, guys. I will see you again soon with more regular, normal, specific content rather than these big, broad brushes. All right? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.